We faithfully deliver value by interpreting great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, we're exploring A Beautiful Mind. When we talk about A Beautiful Mind, you might think of that classic American movie with the same name. In 2002, it received 8 Oscar nominations and won 4 awards. The book that inspired this movie is our topic today, a biography of John Nash, a great 20th century mathematician. Nash won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1994. His big contribution was advancing game theory based on von Neumann's work, deeply shaping how we see cooperation and competition in society. For example, The Selfish Gene by Dawkins uses game theory to explain animal evolution and behavior. Game theory elements also appear in cultural works. Like in the sci-fi novel The Three-Body Problem, the dark forest theory is a variation of game theory's prisoner's dilemma. This book doesn't just teach game theory, it reveals Nash's extraordinary life behind it. Nash's life is truly unique among all mathematicians and economists, past and present. He taught at top universities young, but at 31, schizophrenia struck suddenly, leading to 25 years of painful isolation from academia. Miraculously, though, with his strong will and support from loved ones, his condition improved and he fully recovered. He earned the Nobel Prize with a 27-page paper from his youth. The book's author is Sylvia Nassar. As a New York Times economics reporter, she interviewed hundreds close to Nash and studied documents to piece together the story for A Beautiful Mind. This book was her debut work. After publication, it was widely praised, winning the 1998 National Book Critics Circle Award for Biography and the 2000 Communications Award from math policy groups.
Its movie adaptation made it a huge sensation.
Nazar left the New York Times, did research at Princeton and Cambridge, and since 2001 has taught journalism at Columbia University. Next, we'll explore A Beautiful Mind in 3 parts. Part 1, Nash's early life before his illness. Part 2, what exactly is game theory about? Part 3, Nash's journey from recovery to winning the Nobel Prize. Let's begin with Part 1, Nash's early life experiences. Actually, as a child, Nash didn't aspire to study mathematics either. Born in 1928 to an ordinary American family, his father an electrical engineer, his mother a schoolteacher, it was a warm, loving home. But young Nash was introverted. While other kids played together, he'd read alone or play by himself. Once, at his dad's company dinner,
Little Nash spent the whole night riding the elevator up and down, fascinated, until he accidentally broke it, much to his parents' embarrassment.
as a teenager, Nash kept his curious, tinkering nature. During summer work, he once disappeared from his post for hours. They found him hidden in a corner, fiddling with an elaborate mousetrap design. In elementary school, Nash's grades, even in math, were poor. He failed arithmetic. Teachers considered him an underachiever relative to his intelligence test scores. In math class, his unconventional solutions often drew criticism from teachers. Yet Nash's mother believed in him fiercely, and history proved this unconventional thinking was precisely his mathematical genius. In high school, he'd often solve problems in just a few simple steps. While teachers filled blackboards with proofs, his chemistry teacher later recalled, I'd write a problem, students would grab pencils, but Nash just stared at equations, then politely stood and gave the answer. He solved problems entirely in his mind. His true talent emerged when he proved a minor problem related to Fermat's last theorem from a mathematician's biography, yet still didn't pursue math. Why? In June 1945, Nash followed his engineer father's footsteps to Carnegie Mellon University, majoring in chemical engineering. Since he already had sufficient math knowledge, he exempted most introductory courses. Nash's professors told him mathematics was a great career choice for exceptional minds. So when applying for grad school, Nash chose mathematics. His professor Duffin wrote a recommendation letter with just one line. He is a mathematical genius. Both Harvard and Princeton admitted Nash. Though Harvard was his first choice, Young Nash was somewhat prideful. He felt Princeton's math chair eagerly writing to urge him, offering a $1,150 scholarship, showed true recognition. Harvard sent no letters or scholarship, clearly not valuing him, so he chose Princeton instead. The author sees this as childish stubbornness, but fortunate. Harvard was rigid with formalities, while Princeton embraced free thinkers. A fellow grad student recalled Princeton's belief: the human mind can solve anything through mathematical thinking. New at Princeton, Nash was arrogant. A classmate said he wanted everyone to see his brilliance, not for respect, but because those who didn't notice needed better observation. If anyone didn't realize, he'd take time to help them see. He simply craved attention. Nash rarely attended classes, spending most time thinking. He despised passive learning, demanding independent exploration. He'd linger in libraries, crawling under tables, lying on floors, whistling back tunes. Working mentally, he became obsessed with applying rationality to every life decision through math and game theory, like taking this elevator or waiting for the next, choosing banks, even marriage, all became calculations. Even something as small as a casual greeting in the hallway would annoy him quite a bit. Why on earth did you greet me? In 1950, Nash wrote a 27-page doctoral thesis, mainly on game theory, and graduated smoothly. In that thesis, he proposed an important concept, later known as the Nash equilibrium. We'll cover this in detail in part 2. Ironically, although Nash wrote what we now consider a great thesis, Princeton's math department thought he wasn't up to par and didn't plan to keep him as a professor at all. So Nash went to work as a research consultant at Randall Corporation, a top-secret Cold War think tank in the U.S. At the time, Rand was applying game theory to Cold War military and diplomatic strategies. Fascinated by Rand's computers, Nash quickly shifted his interest from game theory to pure mathematics. Determined to prove himself as a pure mathematician, Nash soon achieved academic results related to manifolds and algebraic topology. What is this thing? No need to understand it. It's complicated. You just need to know that with math achievements unrelated to game theory, he got into MIT. While teaching at MIT, he met his first girlfriend, but to disappoint some, this woman wasn't Alicia, the heroine from A Beautiful Mind, but a nurse. Eleanor, at age 25, in 1953, they had a child out of wedlock. But Nash did something really awful here. He abandoned and refused to acknowledge them because he felt Eleanor's cultural and intellectual level didn't match his genius. Later, he met his student Alicia in class.
To be precise, Alicia used her charm to pursue her teacher, Nash.
In 1957, they got married. A year later, signs of Nash's mental illness began to show. He appeared at a New Year's party dressed as a baby. Another day, he walked into the office dejectedly, holding a New York Times, telling professors he was receiving messages through the paper, either from cosmic forces or foreign governments, and only he could decode alien codes. In other words, he began losing his mind. That same year, his son with Alicia was born, who later inherited his schizophrenia. Why did Nash develop schizophrenia? Medical science still doesn't fully understand this illness's causes. Beyond genetics, environmental stress and psychological resilience are considered key factors. At 30, Nash suddenly began acting erratically, spiraling uncontrollably. So during the preceding period, he likely experienced significant trauma. For instance, years earlier, Nash was arrested for indecency after allegedly soliciting homosexual acts in a restroom, leading to his dismissal from Rand. Also, when his conservative parents discovered his former lover and illegitimate child, their fury could have been another trigger. But the author suggests another key factor: Nash's sky-high ambition as a self-proclaimed pure mathematician. Yet by 30, he remained far from math giants like Gauss, Euler, and Riemann. Once, after completing research in isolation, avoiding others' work to preserve originality, he discovered an Italian had already published the same theory, winning the Fields Medal, math's Nobel equivalent. One These failures hit him hard. Xing Shen Chern, a renowned Chinese-American mathematician and Nash's colleague, later remarked Nash had gone astray by only tackling impossible problems, leading to disaster. At 30, Nash hoped for positions at Harvard or Princeton, but remained at MIT without full professorship or tenure. The department head reluctant to promote him. Some colleagues considered him a poor teacher and worse coworker. So less than a year later, likely triggered by these cumulative setbacks, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, abruptly resigned from MIT, and spent the next decade in and out of psychiatric hospitals. By 40, he'd lost everything: friends, family, career. Unlike the movie's portrayal of unwavering devotion, in 1963, Alicia could no longer endure Nash's erratic behavior. They chose divorce, but she never gave up on him. After the divorce, Alicia never remarried. Supporting herself on her meager programmer salary, she continued caring for her ex-husband and son. She insisted Nash remain at Princeton, believing odd behavior elsewhere would get him labeled insane. But at Princeton, embracing all minds, people compassionately assumed he might be a genius. For years during his illness, Nash wandered Princeton's campus as a drifter, undisturbed. He'd scribble baffling formulas on blackboards, roam libraries all night, even toss water from windows occasionally. Dubbed Princeton's Phantom, classrooms and dining halls stayed open to him. Everyone assumed geniuses were just eccentric. He cheerfully believed himself a great religious figure of mysterious importance. He saw hidden meanings everywhere: a phone number, a bow tie, a puppy. New York Times sentences carried secret messages only he could decipher. These signals grew so intense he forgot life's true priorities. Sometimes he sat alone at Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study dining hall, witnessed by others. One morning, he stood, walked to a wall, and slowly banged his head against it repeatedly, eyes shut.
Alicia clenched her fists.
During Nash's illness, Alicia meticulously cared for him 30 years, until his condition gradually stabilized. Ironically, during his erratic years, his game theory gained increasing academic recognition. His name attached to more terms: Nash equilibrium, Nash embedding, Nash bargaining solution. In 1987, the new Palgrave Dictionary of Economics was published. Tedders noted the game theory revolution. Sweeping economics was sparked by von Neumann and Nash's theorems, contributions unmatched by others. Oh, now for part 2. Nash's most important academic achievement. What exactly is game theory about? Nobel laureate Paul Samuelson said, "To be valuable in modern society, you must grasp game theory." Or simply, to win in business, you must learn it. To win at life, you gotta learn it too. Game theory. The classic story Nash crafted for game theory is the famous prisoner's dilemma. Get this, and you'll understand what game theory and Nash equilibrium are all about. The prisoner's dilemma describes a case where two co-conspirators are separated during interrogation and can't coordinate. The police tell both, if you both confess, you get 8 years each. If neither confesses, you both get just 6 months. But if you confess and the other doesn't, we release you right away, and the other gets 10 years. Clearly, it's best if both don't confess, only 1 year total. But reality's different. Person A thinks, if B confesses, I confess and get 8 years. If I don't, I get 10 years. Whatever, I'll confess. If B doesn't confess, I confess and go free. If I don't, I serve 6 months with him, so I choose to confess. Next door, B thinks the same and confesses. Result, both get 8 years, not 6 months. Pretty weird, huh? That's game theory. Two rational people without communication, acting in self-interest, guessing each other's moves, end up with a result they feel stuck with. And this outcome is 16 years! The worst possible result! And this point is the Nash equilibrium point. What is Nash equilibrium? It's a situation in the game where multiple players, none can benefit more by changing their own decision alone. I would say, I won't confess, but that would make his outcome even worse. Same for B. Game theory has huge significance in economics. It overturns a basic premise of traditional economics since Adam Smith.
Adam Smith believed the driving force behind modern economic growth is people's self-interested division of labor, like me baking bread.
You sharpen pencils not to help others, but to earn money for ourselves, so we produce efficiently. And each person, acting selfishly, does their specialized job well, maximizing efficiency, so society's bread, pencils, and wealth grow fast, achieving a collective benefit. In Adam Smith's words from The Wealth of Nations, by pursuing his own interest, he frequently promotes society's interest more effectively than when he intends to. This is a fundamental cornerstone for modern Western economics. Nash's game theory, especially the prisoner's dilemma, proves that actions taken out of self-interest may not actually benefit others. And, in fact, it can be both harmful to others and detrimental to oneself. Some say the prisoner's dilemma is just a fictional scenario, not common in real life. But actually, Nash's game theory developed from studies of games like poker and chess. Everyone faces the same rules, guessing what cards others will play. No matter what they play, I have a way to counter it, aiming to stay unbeatable. That's what game theory is about. Don, for example, in life, there are always people who want to reap benefits without effort, like retail investors in the stock market waiting for big players to boost prices. Similarly, in industries like counterfeit sneakers or fake drugs, companies wait for new hit products to emerge in the market, then mass produce knockoffs to profit hugely. And even in your company, there are always lazy people who don't contribute, but still expect to share the rewards. These phenomena can actually be explained by a classic model in game theory, showing why their emergence is inevitable. And this model is called the pig game, which might be more practical and interesting than the prisoner's dilemma. It tells the story of a big pig and a small pig in a pig pen. On one side of the pen, there's a pedal. Each time it's stepped on, a food dispenser on the opposite side drops some food. If one pig steps on the pedal, the other pig has a chance to eat the food that falls on the other side first. When the small pig steps on the pedal, the big pig finishes all the food before the small pig can reach the trough. If the big pig steps on the pedal, he still has a chance to rush to the trough before the small pig finishes eating, grabbing half of the leftovers. All right, now guess how these two pigs will play this game. I'll reveal the answer first. The outcome is always that the small pig will free ride. Waiting by the trough, the big pig steps on the pedal, reaping the rewards without effort, while the big pig runs back and forth endlessly just to eat some scraps. Why is that? Let's analyze this using the thinking of the prisoner's dilemma. If you're the small pig, you know stepping on the pedal gets you nothing, while not stepping gets you food. So you definitely won't step on it. If you're the big pig, you can figure it out right away too. The small pig will definitely occupy the spot. If I don't step, both pigs starve. If I step, I can still eat half.
Well, then I'll step on it.
So the outcome is always small pig lounges while big pig runs, just like stock market manipulators who work hard analyzing companies and investing heavily, while some small investors just follow the money flow to free ride and make quick profits. Many haven't read the pig game story, but instinctively use the small pig strategy. So who's smarter in the stock market? Actually, nobody's foolish. They figure out what others will do, then everyone does the same. It's the best choice available. That's Nash equilibrium. By extending this theory to games involving cooperation and competition, Nash opened doors for applying game theory in economics, political science, sociology, and even evolutionary biology. Later government auctions of public resources, like treasury bills and oil leases, were sold through designs by game theory scholars. Strangely, Nash and those around him didn't take game theory seriously. Because mathematically, game theory techniques aren't complex or profound, nor did they create new analytical tools. So mathematicians didn't consider it high-level research. Once, Nash excitedly took his game theory paper to von Neumann, the renowned founder of game theory. After presentation, von Neumann dismissively waved, "Piece of cake! Isn't this just fixed point theorem? Even Nash's advisor didn't find the paper impressive. He was somewhat disappointed. He felt Nash could have achieved more in pure math. Even today, many mathematicians consider Nash's other work superior to his game theory. So Nash himself didn't pursue game theory further. He began tackling diverse studies like quantum theory and the Riemann hypothesis. His published works comprise 15 papers, 5 on game theory, 10 on pure mathematics. 45 years later, the Nobel Committee awarded him the Economics Prize, finally formally recognizing this achievement. Now let's move to part 3, Nash's journey from recovery to winning the Nobel Prize. Honestly, Nash's recovery from schizophrenia was a miracle. A patient recovering without medication. This has occurred historically, but it's extremely rare and unfolds very gradually. Early in his illness, Nash underwent painful insulin injection therapy. Medical theory then claimed insulin could rapidly lower blood sugar, inducing coma and shock. After sugar reduction, the brain's energy shortage would kill excess cells, curing schizophrenia. Today, this theory is pure nonsense. Insulin therapy is long abandoned. Nash suffered pointlessly. Interestingly, from the 1970s onward, Nash refused medication. He believed drugs dulled his thinking, so he stopped taking them. Afterward, his condition actually began improving slowly. This took over a decade. Nash attributed his recovery to 2 personal efforts. First, gradually realizing his delusions and hallucinations yielded no results. Second, growing ability to rationally resist hallucinations. In his 1995 diary, gradually I consciously avoided thought paths influenced by hallucinations. These were once instinctive. The key step was deciding not to worry about my secret world. It didn't work. When one rationalizes their thoughts, they can identify and reject irrational assumptions in delusions. If you've seen A Beautiful Mind, you might recall Nash realizing the little girl in his hallucination never aged. That's when he finally distinguished illusion from reality. The scene captures truth, but real Nash didn't have severe visual hallucinations or 3 imaginary companions like in the film. He mostly experienced auditory hallucinations and was prone to fantasy. People with schizophrenia face extremely high suicide risks, especially for intellectuals or high IQ individuals, since schizophrenia episodes come in waves with brief periods of clarity. During these lucid moments, when patients realize they've become crazy and feel utterly hopeless, they often choose suicide. Fortunately, Alicia's timely presence and companionship kept Nash from this path. After the divorce, Nash's mother passed away, and he wandered alone. At Princeton, no one in the world would take in this madman anymore. Alicia brought Nash to her home and cared for him while living together. During this time, she faced another heartbreak. Their son also developed schizophrenia. For years, she single-handedly cared for 2 mentally ill people without collapsing. Truly remarkable. The book is titled A Beautiful Mind. Why this title? Some say the title actually refers to Alicia. The book's opening states, "This work is dedicated to Alicia Nash." In the familiar, accepting, quiet environment of home and campus, where he wasn't seen as a monster, Nash's mental state steadily improved. Since the 1980s, many academic groups advocated for Nash to receive the Nobel Economics Prize. By then, concepts like Nash equilibrium were already in business school textbooks, but some Nobel judges worried Nash might still be unstable, delaying the award. In the early 90s, Judge Lindbeck even argued fiercely at the Royal Swedish Academy, securing Nash's 1994 Nobel Economics Prize by a narrow vote. The justification: game theory powerfully complemented Adam Smith's economic ideas. Strictly speaking, Nash was a mathematician, not an economist, a fact the committee acknowledged. Months after the award, in February 1995, they redefined the Economics Prize to honor social scientists across politics, science, psychology, and sociology. Later, Daniel Kahneman, author of Thinking, Fast and Slow, a psychologist, won the prize. This interdisciplinary openness began with Nash's award. Around the time Nash received his award, two really interesting things happened. One was when Vice President Gore announced in downtown Washington, D.C., the start of the largest auction ever. The three major U.S. mobile carriers, like America's versions of China Mobile, Unicom, and Telecom, bid for frequency bands for phone communications, with the winning bids totaling over $7 billion. This auction was designed by economists using Nash's game theory, making it the biggest public property sale in U.S. history and the most profitable success story of economics applied to public policy. And we are all in T5. Well, and the other fun thing was riding in a limo towards downtown Stockholm. On the way to the Nobel Prize ceremony, he pointed to a passing bank and said he'd wired money there as part of his work to prepare for an alien invasion. At a small reception after winning, Nash gave a brief speech. He said he hoped the Nobel Prize would improve his credit rating because he really needed a credit card. Since he shared the prize with two other economists, he admitted wishing he'd won it alone because he desperately needed the money. Like the Nobel brought him good luck. His estranged, illegitimate son returned to him, and father and son enjoyed family bliss together. After 38 years divorced in 2001, Nash and Alicia remarried and never parted again. On May 23, 2015, the Nash couple went to Norway to receive the Abel Prize, a top math award, but tragically died in a car crash on their way home. And so Nash concluded his legendary life at 86. All right, that wraps up the main content of A Beautiful Mind. The book shows a math genius lost to madness, who, through family's unwavering love and society's tolerance, rose from rock bottom back to normal life and regained all the glory that rightfully belonged to him. On Nash's Nobel medal, Princeton University and Alicia deserve at least half the credit. Alicia, this great woman, gambled with fate throughout her life and ultimately won. And Nash achieved equilibrium in the game of gains and losses. All right, that's the end of our interpretation of A Beautiful Mind. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.